I'm like, I don't do the farmer wave, people. I don't.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we do the roll call, I think it would just be very proper for us just take a moment of silence and memory for our colleague and friend Kent before we go. So just take a moment. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Rick Gunion.
Present.
Krista Stillwell.
Present.
Mike Reeder.
Present.
Mike Kelly.
Present. I will entertain a motion for the approval of, we have two sets of minutes, I believe. You have for the April 7th regular board meeting and the April 21st board meeting that was also somewhat of a work session. So we'll take those together if you don't mind.
So moved.
Motion by Mike Reeder,
I'll second that.
second by Krista. Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Rick Gunion.
Aye.
Krista Stillwell.
Aye.
Mike Reeder.
Aye.
Mike Kelly.
Aye. I want to take and recess the USB meeting at this time to be for a public hearing regarding a bot awards proposal, and Alicia's going to take care of that.
So we received, we issued a request for proposal for the Jefferson Sewer Project construction, and the two proposals came in. The committee met to take a look at those proposals, and they reviewed the proposals, and they have a recommendation for the board. And the recommendation by the committee was to accept the proposal by F&K Construction. That bot project, once the board awards the proposal, then that company will be the one that will be the developer for the project, and they will be working to get the bids all done and take care of all of that piece so that the utility service board doesn't have to do that part. So the next step after this process, once that is done, is there will be a public-private agreement that will be entered into between the developer and the USB. And then after that's done, they will work with their contractors to get a guaranteed maximum price. They'll get that back to the board, and then the board will approve that guaranteed maximum price, and the project will start kind of rolling forward after that point. So this is a public hearing on the proposals, if there's any public comment or questions regarding that.
Any questions, public or even from board?
Seeing none, Chairman, or Vice Chairman, if you'd like to recess the meeting.
Okay.
Or the,
We'll recess
I'm sorry, not recess the meeting, close the public hearing.
Close the public hearing and reconvene the USB meeting at this time.
Okay.
And then the next item that we have on the agenda to accommodate the people who are here waiting for these bids will be the bid opening, and Mike Reeder will take care of that. After the bids are all opened, they'll be given to the consultant, and they will be taken and evaluated, and we will hopefully be able to make a decision and a decision after these are opened and reviewed. Mike, it's up to you.
The first one is Miller Pipeline. The bid price is $498, $450.64. Is that all you need?
You want to read that again?
Yeah, 450,000. Yeah.
Okay, that's a
No,
little better.
There we go.
$498,450.64.
There we go.
Thanks for clarifying
Hey.
that. The comma is there.
I think there was a collective hold of the breath out there.
Ooh, paperclip. That won't go through it. Next one is from Walton Excavating Incorporated. And by the way, there's a total of 4 bids.
Was that Walton or Watson?
Watson, sorry, Watson. The total on this is $363,150. You need anything else besides the total number right now?
The paper has addendum 1. No. Okay.
Is that going to be for? I figured that was them to go over all that. Has been in the past. Next one is Daystar Drilling. Is $424,228.34. The last one is Wellham. Did I say that right?
Wilhelm?
You gonna redline that for me, Alicia?
I can if you want. It is my favorite thing.
Thank you. Theirs is $747,500.
Yep.
And that's the final bid.
I would ask if there's representatives of those companies here. Did you hear what you thought you were going to hear? So that okay, so we'll take and give these to be reviewed, and then as soon as he gets them reviewed, we'll give some feedback on. Okay. With a recommendation, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. So, we need to make a motion to take those under advisement.
I need a-
I move that we take the bids as presented under advisement.
That's it.
Second.
Second, Mike.
Okay.
Any questions? Roll call.
Rick Gunyon.
Aye.
Mike Reeder.
Aye.
Krista Stillwell.
Aye.
Mike Kelly.
Aye.
And then also, sorry to keep interrupting, we also need to, if we want to approve and award the proposal that was recommended, we did the public hearing, but we didn't actually vote on awarding that proposal. So we
Okay.
will need to do that at some point. It doesn't have to be right now, but I just
Well,
don't
let's
want
do it
us to
right
forget.
now. A motion for the acceptance of the proposals
The proposal from F&K
from
Construction for the
F&K
bot process.
Construction for the bot.
I'll make the motion that we approve F&K Construction for the bot.
Okay.
I'll second that motion, please.
Motion by Mike, second by Rick. Questions, comments? Roll call.
Krista Stillwell.
Aye.
Rick Gunyon.
Aye.
Mike Reeder.
Aye.
Mike Kelly.
Aye.
Alrighty, thank you.
We got all that
Yes,
cleared up?
yes.
Who has the safety minute for today?
Just a reminder for this time of year when we can have storms and weather pop up all quickly. Last year, Phil had reminded us we could use that closet that's directly across from me on the other end of the room. The door is currently unlocked, so if a storm were to pop up tonight, we could all just go into that room. There's no windows. It is the centermost room in the building. So it's a safety minute for tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shane.
Thank you.
And that's called the shelter-in-place location, right?
I
Yeah.
suppose it's
Yeah,
normally
yeah.
just a closet with a bunch of stuff in it, so once the lights
That's
go
called
out,
the shelter-in-place
somebody-
process, yes.
Well, our cell phones work in there.
Thank you.
Andrew?
Really just business as usual. March has been reconciled, cash Tyler to fund. Happy to report that the city has closed 24 and rolled into 25. I think they are waiting to close February. There's a couple corrections that need to be ran through before they can get into March. My understanding is March is ready to be closed for them as well. So once the February corrections are done, they should be caught up to April, which is where we are at this point. So plan on starting the April reconciliation either this week or next week and moving on.
Thank you. Questions for? Karen is not going to be here. We're going to take care of hers when you do yours?
I checked and she didn't have anything to report.
Okay. Electric, Phil?
Well, out of the goodness of luck, we don't have any storms to report on this month, so hope nobody's upset with that.
No.
But on 4/24/25, approximately 12:02 a.m., we lost the Burlington substation back here due to a raccoon that got on top of the big power transformer. The first call came in at 12:02 a.m., and Greg Patchett, the trouble man, called me before he basically got off the phone, and they give him all the addresses, and he put together what had happened. So I logged in on the SCADA from home, confirmed what was going on, and headed to town with him. And Todd was here, and by 1 o'clock we had the raccoon cleared and went through all of our procedures to get the sub back up online and had all the power restored. So less than an hour at midnight and everybody just getting into deep sleep, I'd say that's a pretty good response.
And we had, what was it, 1,104 missed calls
Mhm.
in 30 minutes that it took us to get that out.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, Phil, but I went back and looked at the cameras, or watched the cameras, and you could see the coon come across the ground and disappears for a while. As soon as it gets to the top of the transformer, it was so close to the sub and all the switchgear and everything. It just went dark before you even seen the explosion of the raccoon, because it was pretty well destroyed. That's how fast.
That's how fast the relays opened the 69 breaker up. So it did its job. We have a crew out east of town here on the Michigan Blacktop and 250 East rebuilding a section of line. Single phase line consists of close to 50 poles that we're upgrading, transferring the conductors and all the hardware. Been pulling in a few permanent services to Meadowbrook already. Usually go through and you'll hook up temporary for the contractor and then come back through, and so that's how fast everybody's seen how fast the houses are going up. So they're not wasting any time. And then last week we had all of our rubber goods tested that we carry on the trucks that you see us sliding on the line when we're working on them. And out of several pieces, we only had 2 failures, so I was pretty pleased with that. And tomorrow, along with myself and a few linemen, we're going to go to Indianapolis and attend an Eaton controller class. And these are our controllers that we have on our reclosures, regulators, capacitor banks. They're fairly new. So we'll get an update, a little refresher course on those. And then next Wednesday, the second half that aren't going tomorrow, will be attending a substation class at IMPA on one of their IMPA free workshops. So I'll be covering some pretty good material on that too. Something that we don't see every day, that then when you get to it, you're usually in a panic, so we can refresh and go forth from there. That's all I have.
Questions, comments?
Thank you, Phil. If I may, what percentage of those, I think you said 50 poles out east here,
Mhm.
what percentage of those might be suitable for adaptive reuse out at lagoons in a non-load bearing manner, just for along the driveway or
Yeah.
such as that?
Todd spoke with me about that already, and we've already started the collection out back here.
Do you think half of them are good enough to reuse in that manner, or a
Some of
third?
them are
Or,
rotted off the ground, and some of them, the tops are blowed out, and they got a lot of age on them. But some of the better ones that get hit by cars or something, we'll bring in, the majority of them we take to Coomers, and they dispose of them, but we have some back here that we bring in after hours. We're trying to, rush to get out of here. And there's some pretty decent ones back here.
so some of those 50 would be reusable, you think?
Some of them.
Okay,
But
all
not
right.
all of them, yeah.
That's good.
How many do you think you need?
I want to just keep that in the back of our mind, because we have a pretty good need or benefit from those down the road here. So
How many are you thinking you'd want?
how many do you have? So
All of them.
Each all you want.
the ones that are reusable for that purpose would be beneficial at this point, just
Okay.
to accrue those. So thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
Shane, back up.
Staying up on support tickets, those are good. Last time it was asked where we're at on doing the Microsoft 365 updates. We're about 35, 36 as of right now. So we're making progress. Not going gangbusters, but we're making progress. So regrettably, I don't have an accurate number of the city and utilities what that should be. So one of the things I'm hoping to get started this week is get the fire department. It maybe not finished, but definitely started. So probably take a while to get them finished with 3 different shifts. But other than that, that's all I have.
Questions for Shane?
I have one comment. I think it was last week. My wife surprised me a few weeks back by upgrading my cell phone, and that's a blessing and a curse. But last week, Shane was kind enough to get my phone back where I can access the FMU email with the second MFA, the two-party verification through Duo, and a couple related items. And it reminded me that for people in a technical role like Shane is, probably one of the stronger attributes to have, and Shane has it, is persistence, because he tried and failed a few times, more than a few times, and kept at it and got it fixed. So Shane, I want to thank you for that.
It's called hard-headed. What it is.
You call it hard-headedness.
You call it what you want.
I call it persistence, but you have it, and I want to thank you. So.
You're welcome. And that reminds me, you did want to go ahead and shut down the lagoons at FMU email, correct?
Yeah, we established a lagoons email address in the FMU domain in 2020, expecting that someone might read the lagoon rules sign that are posted in 2 locations out there and want to message the lagoons point person. And we checked that lagoons email account, and there was how many?
Let's just say there was 60.
Yeah. So there were no messages of importance, and we can go another route. So we're going to kill that account just to eliminate confusion. And I'll personally mark up the signage out the lagoons to indicate that is no longer available. So
Okay.
thank you for that.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, Shane. Chase the water.
On the maintenance side, we had one service renewal, one hydrant replacement, four new services installed out at Meadowbrook, replaced 3 angle valves, and actually Jason is here tonight. Jason helped with the TPA Park on an issue that happened with the pool, where it had been tapped and was on outside of what would be our normal area of work. It had actually blown apart. It was done by not properly being installed. So Jason was there. The Parks Department did a great job. They did the work as far as fixing it. Jason did a good job with making sure they had everything they needed to get things taken care of. So it is back fixed and up and going. So that's a really good thing. At the plant, normal sampling, mowing, meter reading, meter changeouts in the industrial park are still working as schedules allow. They got the Frankfort High School for sure is done, and working on a couple others, just making sure schedule conflicts don't arise. We had the hypochlorite cells cleaned for the first time. That actually happened Friday. We are on Monday. Happened Friday. They're look like brand new. Having a few issues with starting back up because they were a little dirty. That's to be expected. But everything's coming together fine. Obviously had the pre-bid meeting. Overall, everything is running pretty good. Did a large battery backup replacement for the plant. We had an issue where we were getting calls from our fire system. It turned out that it was just a battery backup issue, where batteries were from 2019 and older. So other than that, everything else running pretty good. That's all I have.
Questions? Thank you. PJ, you're up.
At the plant, we did a low line pump repair. We also drained south aeration, made repairs to some of the air lines, and cleaned the diffusers. Skiles did the main breaker repair. We've also got an ongoing repair with our generator at 200 West. Evidently, a mouse got in there and caused thousands of dollars worth of damage. We passed biomonitoring, and then we also did a guide rail repair at Mash Road. The maintenance guys, they've been busy with the paving list. Did 2 storm repairs on Kiger. We did 2 storm repairs on Barner. We raised a manhole on Kelly Avenue and Walnut. We moved a manhole on Kelly Avenue north of the tracks. We installed 3 cleanouts. We had 7 sewer calls. 6 of them were on the homeowners. That's all I got.
Your generator,
Mm-hmm.
Grandpa Gus, little packets.
There's all kinds of mouse poison out there.
Okay. They won't come in there with that. They have my camper for the last 7 years. They won't even come near it.
Okay, send me a picture of it. Where you get it, Real King? Okay.
They're little bitty packets. You put them in there, they smell like peppermint and something else, and they do not like them.
Okay. I'll keep that in mind.
Just a little food for thought.
No pun intended.
Mm-mm.
Rick, I have lagoons on there for, I think, in the first weekend in June, the first fish day, free fishing.
Yeah, is that why that was on the agenda?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me speak to that briefly. So on March the 21st, I sent a email to the board with a request to Mr. Day to add that event to the USB calendar. Has that been done?
I will need to check my email. I do not remember getting that email.
I'll give you a copy of this when we're done here.
Okay, yeah.
That event is at the Lagoons Shelter Number 1 from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. per the request of Ms. La Rosa. And it is a partnership between the Frankfort Optimist Club and the Frankfort Lions Club. Last year, it was phenomenal attendance and a day enjoyed by all. So I will provide a few signs, as I did last year, for that shelter to that effect. I also had to the attention of Todd to request that he please arrange to borrow 6 picnic tables is her request. Her additional request was that aren't broken. I don't know what that means, but I think a couple of them last year weren't in really shape from the parks, and have them placed at Shelter 1. So is that something you can take care of?
Yes, and I think they brought extra trash cans as well, last year too.
You're reading ahead of the list here, because can you also please provide 2 extra trash cans at Shelter 1?
Yeah, I think they brought 4 or 6 of them. They brought several last.
I know they had
time.
2 filled by 9 o'clock in the morning. So
yeah,
she asked for 2 extra, probably 4 extra would be great. And I think 2 things. I think this kind of event is why the community benefits from the lagoons, and the ability to take that as a recreational day, and it points to the good partnership we have with the city parks department and all around. So I appreciate all the help.
And what's the date? I'm sorry,
June,
Rick. What?
June the 7th.
June the 7th.
The first of 2 free fishing days this year, and the second is in September. So
okay.
Again, thank you for your help, Todd and Andrew.
I do have that email, and I overlooked it, so I'll get that on the.
That's okay.
I'll get that on the calendar right now.
Okay.
Well,
very good.
Tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Sure.
Mike, while we're on the lagoons, we had a discussion several weeks ago about security and everything else. And I think I mentioned it to you the other day, Rick. I am having zero luck getting hold of that landowner. I just don't even think anybody's there anymore. And the cell phone just goes straight to voicemail, everything. So I'm kind of at a loss on.
Let me ask. I appreciate that. Let me ask. I don't mean to interrupt you. Let me ask our legal counsel, Alicia. What's the process to get a hold of a property owner for reasons of inheritance or acquisition, or is there a legal methodology to go about that?
No, not really. I mean, so like if we're trying to find someone because they're going to inherit and we don't have an address, we essentially just look on the internet and try to find where we can get a hold of them, and then we send letters. But if they ultimately ignore us, then it escheats to the state of Indiana, and the state holds on to that money until they come and claim it, and it would go to unclaimed property. So there's not really any way that I can contact someone if they don't want to be contacted, if that makes sense. You can try to contact them by, sending them a letter to their tax address. Beacon should have the address, where they get taxes.
Well, they're on our system. Somebody's paying the electric bill and everything.
Yeah, so you could get the address and send them a letter. We try that a lot of times, but if they still refuse to communicate with you, there's really nothing you can do to make them. I suppose if you really wanted to get their attention, you could try and publish something in the newspaper or something, but that usually gets extreme. But for service of process for legal matters, if we can't find the person, we can do service by publication, and then it just gets published in the newspaper, but that's not really going to help us here because we need to talk to them.
Okay,
so
I'll get the address from the billing office tomorrow, and I'll send a letter to see if somebody will contact us. I never even thought about that.
And you could send it certified and have them sign for it, and then they got it, or you can send it where you can just do tracking, and then it was delivered. But again, if they don't want to talk to us, we really can't make them.
Right. Well, somebody's there. Somebody must come by because there's some horses out there, but I've never been able to catch somebody there tending to the horses or anything. So I'll check once once or twice or three times a week just to
Yeah.
see if I can catch somebody, and I have not had it.
Well, let's try
Any luck?
the letter approach.
Okay.
Return receipt, and I'm a little bit hesitant to go certified and all that because sometimes that's perceived as bad
thing.
news letter.
It almost always is. I
Yeah.
usually don't recommend
No, I
certified
wouldn't,
mail
I wouldn't
unless
do
you
that
have
at
to
this
do
point.
it. Yeah, unless you have to.
And then we'll go from there.
Okay.
So we're not under dire calendar, but I appreciate the update. We'd like to keep that moving if we can. And as it
Absolutely.
turns out, probably the only scenario I can attest this to or attribute this to is probably back in time before the lagoons was purchased by the city. That adjoining property to the east of the tracks was probably all on the same track under the
Yeah.
same owner, and that's how that section of property is titled to that property owner now. Otherwise, it would have been separated by the railroad right of way
Right.
back in 1864.
Yeah. This time
So-
it didn't. That's,
Okay.
That's right at the edge of the road, all the way back to then the entrance of the lagoon there by our pump and stuff that you have is where
Okay.
it's at. So-
Well, let me know if you get stuck on that in between
Okay.
meetings, and I'll get creative. But thank you.
Okay.
All right, rest of your stuff.
Okay, Mike, couple meetings ago as well, you asked about what the storms cost us in March. And the one on 3/15/2025 with the material labor and then the mutual aid that came in, it was $72,676.94. The one 4 days later on 3/19, we didn't have any mutual aid. That one was $24,054.73. And then 11 days later on 3/30, once again, no mutual aid, $17,947.55 for a total of $114,679.22.
Pretty expensive few weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks, yeah, exactly. Another thing I'll be doing, I'll get it going tomorrow, is to get a meeting set up between us, F&K, and Brenton from Burgess and Nyepel, so that we can get this whole thing rolling, because now correct me if I'm wrong, Alicia, the contractor could be talking straight to the engineering firm and everything.
Yes.
And let them work out the details of what
Yeah.
they need to do.
Yeah, and then we'll need to know from Burgess and Nyepel if they are going to, if they have a public-private agreement that they want us to work off of, or if they want me to just draft something. I don't care, but
Okay.
if they've got a format that they prefer to use, and then we change it, that's fine. Or if they just want me to go ahead and draft a public-private agreement, that's fine too. But that's kind of our next step, is getting
Okay.
that done
All
from
right.
the legal side.
Well, Brenton's an hour behind us, so if we get done here, then I'll just give him a call on my way home.
Okay,
I
sounds good.
think during
Okay.
one of those meetings we had Greg Matz.
Matt's. Mm-hmm.
I think he said he had one to get to her if it was needed. That they had one that he's been using.
Yeah, I don't really care. I'm glad to draft one, but if
Mhm.
they have a preference, I'll work with them on that. That's no problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I have a question on your statement here. Probably to Mike. Do we have a budget item for covering storm damage, labor, and costs for meals, et cetera, incurred during the year? I know we get storm damage every year. Do we have a budget item on that?
To my knowledge, it's not a separate item.
No,
Okay.
it is not. It's just,
Can we please make a note for the board to discuss such a new item on our next year's budget, so that we have I don't know what I don't recall what the city calls it, but we have a set aside fund that if we need it, a contingency fund, if we will, that we budget for a nominal amount. Maybe it's the guesstimate of what we've incurred the past few years on an annual basis. I think that might be helpful. So just my thoughts.
Note made. Okay,
I'm sorry, I'm just thinking on how we could do that. Okay, we'll work on that
Yeah.
and take a look at it, because I think you'd have to have 3 line items. You'd have to have a labor line item, you'd have to have a material line item. And
well, one of the, I guess, from my
And
standpoint, other than a separate item.
underground's normally not the problem in a storm.
You can lift it up down there.
Other than, I mean, I guess
Mutual aid.
getting these
Mutual
report
aid,
that we just
yeah.
got tonight helps a whole lot to understand how much those things cost us.
Yeah. Right. Okay. All right.
Next item.
Karen has had some medical issues, so I've been running a lot of the errands for the billing office with the deposits and stuff, since I'm bonded, and there's two at the billing office and myself, so I've been taking them. Some of them have been pretty good size, but I've been doing that. And then we've had several discussions or questions about the ACCS agreement, and had a great conversation with Mark last week. So I'm not ready to bring that back yet. Mark and I, like I said, it was a great discussion. I think we're both excited on something that we're going to start working on, and not to put any pressure on you, Mark, at all. But he's working something out on his end, and as soon as he is ready for that, I told him to take his time, because it is a major decision. We will come back with what I am anticipating to be very good news. So it's pretty exciting, actually.
So with that, can I ask Mr. Day, as the board secretary, could you please put that on the list of open items so we track tonight's meeting? And that was the report update, interim
Yes.
report.
Yes.
And as I think back to 2018, when I recommended the board adopt the open item policy, it was just for this reason, that sometimes things don't work out as we might anticipate, but we don't want to forget about things either. So keeping it on that list is helpful. So
Mark, you're under the gun now. I said I wasn't going to do that, but now so yeah, I think it was a great conversation.
do you feel like putting that out 1 month is adequate, or do you need more time than a month? If we met the first meeting in June?
That's why I said I didn't want to put the pressure on Mark, but right now the ball's in his court to do something. But the way it sounds the other day, I think we're probably going to be a month. You think that's fair, Mark?
I sure hope so, but the way Mike gave me today, I hate to bet on anything.
Okay.
Well, why don't we say the first meeting in July then? That's 2 months.
That's fair. Okay.
There's no reason to put undue pressure.
No,
on anyone.
and
Okay.
we don't want to do that.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
And as I mentioned, don't want to sound like a broken record, but the talks are continuing weekly with the potential big power user out in the industrial park. But we're still making progress, and one piece of equipment that would have pushed it out for almost 3 years has become available, and I believe that they're going to be putting some money down on this to speed up the project for them as well. So, and they had a meeting with the BZA. They got rezoning for out there, so it's coming to light more and more. But it
Variances. They didn't get rezoned. They got
variant. Sorry, Alicia, that's a red line for me. So
Now we're doing them live. It's
Yeah.
very colorful.
But other than that,
She needs to like hold something up on a stick, like a red line on a stick.
But other than that, everything's going very well right now.
Digger Derrick.
Oh, yes. We are in dire need of, I call it a line truck, digger derrick and everything. And so far, Phil, did you get those numbers from Steve-O, what we put into that, the one we have? Yeah, it was it was approaching 30,000, wasn't it? The truck's 1999, and we had talked during the budgets and stuff about getting the prices and everything and getting one on order. It's going to be a minimum of 2 years to get one.
And in the last 3 years, probably, we spent almost $30,000 on the one we have. So right now we're throwing good money after bad, but it'll be 2 years before we could actually get it. Like I said, a minimum of 2 years before we could get that replaced. So we would like to get those numbers and then get one on order for that.
I would like, my perspective on that is it may be a important need, but I would like to know more about where we stand in the budget before we would vote on that. So
You need to know more about what now?
where we stand on the budget for the year, we're nearly halfway through the year. Where do we, how are we doing on income and expenses for the budget? I'm hesitant to say we want to purchase a truck at this time or in our next meeting until we know more about the budget. So that's my perspective. So, but thanks for the update.
Okay.
My question in regards to that is, obviously there's extended timelines related to supply chain and logistics of ordering things of this nature, right?
Mhm.
So if we were to press green light today, how long of a wait process is it for us to get put in the pipeline to get the vehicle or the item that we need? Is there an extended wait period?
Minimum 24 months.
Okay. So it's something that if we push and wait too much longer, it gets longer till we have it when we need it.
Yeah.
Right.
And what their time schedule is. If you wait a month, does it go 2 more? I
Yep.
can't answer that.
And pardon my ignorance here, but do we have to pay that all up front? Is it something that
No,
we pay?
we pay nothing down on
Okay.
on it. And one of the things that we have had, the newest line truck that we had at least for 10 years, and this year we make the final payment on that one.
Okay.
So we free up that money as well for in the future if we choose to lease it or pay for it.
Why don't you bring back to the board the refined purchase or lease cost of the equipment you're talking about,
Okay.
and then show us the numbers that will be freed up from the line truck lease being paid in full, if I'm understanding you correctly?
Yes.
So we can see the delta on that.
Okay.
It might fit right in and be somewhat seamless.
Also, can you include with that the dates of payment? I think that would be really helpful because a lot of those companies don't make you pay anything up front and then it's payable on delivery. Some companies, if you pay up front, then you get a discount or something like that. So those are some things that the board might want to consider as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can get that.
Because obviously I don't want you guys to have to wait for equipment, but it is good to know,
Get out and something break.
Right.
Right.
Especially the storm damage that we've had to do here.
That's all I have, Mike.
All right. While you're up there,
Yeah.
Todd,
Mhm.
can I ask for an update on here it is, the Jefferson street lighting topic?
Rick, I might be having an easier time getting a hold of the homeowner out at the lagoons than I have been able to get a hold of Duke again to get that resolved, to get somebody out here, because they were supposed to send a designer and their line foreman out here, and they're another one I call and I can't get a hold of these people and they won't call me back.
Have you communicated to them in writing, in any manner in writing, like a letter?
No, I don't have any email. I don't have anything. I've got an 800 number to call, and it takes 35 to 45 minutes before you can even start to get to the right person. It's miserable.
Is there like a Duke regional distribution manager somewhere?
It just all of it goes through North Carolina.
Okay, their headquarters in North Carolina.
Yeah, it all goes through North Carolina.
Well, it sounds to me like we need to ratchet up the communication. I think them ignoring that need is not a good answer.
Oh, I don't disagree.
I appreciate you've sent emails and made phone calls, and if they're not responding, the next step is written communication. If anybody on the board has any additional ideas, I'm all for it. But I don't feel comfortable that there's no answer and you've tried and you've tried and you've tried. That's okay. That's where we are. What's our next step, right?
They're very hard people to communicate with. Very hard. I can tell you that.
So it's probably a matter of the squeaky wheel, and we're such a small utility, and Jefferson is even smaller.
Yep.
And it's not squeaking enough. So,
Mayor, I may have to come up to your place and we get together and call or try and track them down.
Yeah, because I'm
There-
wondering if we go like the community development route or something like that. Like we try to go get inroads through their, yeah, we get
'Cause-
inroads through their community outreach or something, and then like weasel our way in. Yep.
Could IMPA help us get a hold of them?
That's a possibility too.
I don't want to be redundant, but Andrew, could you add this topic to the list of open-ended items, please? So we don't forget about it. Thank you.
Done?
Yeah.
Were provided the claims in advance of the meeting? Questions or comments about claims?
And payroll.
A motion?
I move we accept the claims
And
and payroll.
second.
Thank you, Mike.
And transfers, right? Yeah.
Yes, and transfers.
That's on my second, on your motion.
We have a motion and a second.
Mhm.
Comments, questions? Andrew?
Rick Gunyon,
Aye.
Mike Reeder,
Aye.
Krista Stillwell,
Aye.
Mike Kelly.
Aye. Alicia?
I don't have anything specific for tonight.
Okay. Old business, review of the first quarter budget. You had in your packet, it's kind of a new attempt at trying to do something different, where you have a report of the items that are budget items that are above, would we say 30 or 35%?
I did it at 30%.
At 30%, they're at 30% spent at this point, the first quarter. A number of those items are some of the things that are paid semi-annually and annually. So if it says 100%, it means the whole thing has probably been paid. Most items. Now, especially in electric and some of those things like we talked about, there's $114,000 that was spent for the storm. That's reflected in that first quarter budget because that's when it happened. And so those numbers are pretty high above 25%. We're doing this on because I think we need to know where we are more often than at the end of the year. So we're going to refine this over the next quarter, and maybe the report will be a little more detailed or whatever. The other thing that I've done with the budget is I have a printout of the entire budget at where we are at 25 at the end of the first quarter. It's a number of pages, and I didn't want to waste the paper to do that. So I'm going to place that report on Basecamp under the documents and one of the, so that if you want to look at the entire budget, like you have an idea that you want to know what's been spent for the lagoons or whatever, that it'll be there too but it's only the first quarter. The other thing that I have under, I don't have anything else under old business. Anybody else have old business we need to talk about? I have a couple of items in new business I want to bring up.
Just on this topic with the budget, I guess I would be curious also if maybe at the halfway point of the year, we had a similar report, but it was on the flip side, right? So are there budget categories where maybe we predicted we would have spending, but we have not had spending? So they're way under budget or something like that. So that if at the halfway point of the year, there needs to be appropriations made or moved or shifted when we have incidentals like storms or things like that, we have the clarity to be able to say at the halfway point we anticipated we would have spent this money. We now have not, so it's potentially available for something else.
I think probably what we could do is we could just print the entire budget for the and do the 25 pages. It isn't that many pages, but for everyone to have a copy of that. But for the first quarter, it'll be online that you can see it.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So not to be redundant, but on the topic of old business, my recollection, there was an effort made by yourself, by Ms. Stillwell and Mr. Kelly to reconcile the utility employee handbook and the city handbook. What's the status of that? And can that please go on the list of open items, Andrew?
It's in a couple of things. One is getting the timing was really bad last couple of weeks on that. The other thing is getting a time that she and I can get together to talk about it and work on it, which we will be doing. We just haven't been able to get a time to be together to talk about it, and it's a progress. I think maybe one more meeting we can probably get it taken care of, but we'll put it on the open items, Rick, and hopefully we'll kind of set a target of a meeting in June to take care of that. Which brings me to the next item that I really wanted to talk about.
I had a quick question on that. Hold your thought, if you would. So did we, it seems to me like we had our HR consultant give us some long-awaited comments on reconciling those two handbooks. Am I correct in that, or?
No.
No, I haven't.
The HR consultant has not looked at the reconciliation of the handbooks. That is something that we had discussed seeking once we had finally gone through the rest and made sure that we understood which policies we felt needed to be rewritten, verbiage that needed to be added. We had come to the conclusion that we don't believe we can adopt the same handbook, that we will still need separate ones. And then at that point in time, once we get to the end, our goal was, as I remember, we were going to submit to both Jeremy for his looking over as well as Alicia for her looking over. And then we would examine specific verbiage that needed to be looked at by the whole board for adoption or discussion prior to adopting the final handbook.
So that leads me to another question. Is it our practice to take documents that a board member or two are working on drafting or revising to our attorney or to our HR consultant, for which we pay a fee for, before all members of the board get to see that work product, that draft? It seems to me that we have that backwards. I would feel much more comfortable if our process was among the members of the board, one or two people develop a revised document or a new document, and that is discussed among the board members, and then what comes out of that is taken to Alicia for review and comment, or taken to Jeremy for review and comment. Again,
I think that's what we're doing.
To me.
We're trying to formulate a document. It would be reviewed by Alicia and whoever else we wanted to get their professional opinion on, and then the board would be given that document.
Mike, I think what Rick is trying to say is what his perspective is that he would like to have the board review it before it goes to the professional consultants to make decisions, so that if any board member had any questions or concerns with the language before it was reviewed by legal counsel and by the HR counsel, that would be available for everyone on the board to look at, and then it would go. So it would just add, instead of having it go, you guys draft it, it goes to the attorney and to HR, then it goes to the board for approval. It would be, you guys draft it, it goes to the board reviews it, then it goes to the attorney and HR, and then it's approved at the following meeting. Is that correct, Rick?
Exactly, and the reasoning for that is, otherwise we're signing ourselves up for 2 cycles.
Right.
If anybody in the board has a question, comment, or recommended change that the board adopts, we're going back twice. And if you look at best practices in governance, corporate policy procedure, it's usually done the other way around for that reason. Would there be any problem with doing it the other way around?
There's no problem.
Okay.
When we get the document done, we will give it to the full board.
Okay. Thank you.
And then it can be reviewed by, I mean, I guess I thought that's kind of what we were going to do anyway. I may not have said it that way, but
Okay.
that's the intention,
Okay, great.
is that before anything is done, the board always will have the final say on what gets presented to Alicia or in any document or,
Okay,
okay.
very good. Thank you.
Which brings me to the next point that I wanted. During the last couple of weeks, there have been a number of documents that have been sent to the board. There's one about upcoming legislative requirements. There's one about automatic password reset tool. There's one about adding agenda items to the board meeting agenda, which I think are all very important. And there's even more, some documents that need to be probably reviewed by the board before they become a policy or anything that we're going to be operating by. Which brings me to the point that I think probably we need to have 2 meetings a month, official meetings, just like this one. Work sessions, with some of the things that we've been told about work sessions and heard about work sessions and those kind of things, it limits what we can do within that meeting. So I think probably with the board's consensus that I think probably from this point on, we will have 2 meetings a month as meetings, not as work sessions. The second will not be a work session.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I would like to make a motion to that effect, that the board go back to 2 regular meetings per month. And if we find that we need to tack on a quote work session at the end of one of those, we can do that, realizing my understanding is such work sessions would need to have meeting minutes and attendance and would be considered a public meeting as well. Am I correct?
They don't have to have minutes. They have to have a memoranda of what was discussed. So it's a little bit less in depth than minutes. But yes, there has to be a written document. They do need to have attendance, and they do need to have they need to be open to the public. And my understanding of what has been happening is you do technically have 2 meetings because you approve claims and things like that. So at the second meeting, it's just a very short meeting where you approve claims and then you move into the work session portion of it. So I mean, in theory, you could continue that and just make sure that you have discussion items on there and include additional things. But either way is fine.
I'm going to stick with my motion. I think what Mike mentioned, and I thank you, Alicia, for your explanation. I think Mike's motion is well thought of and well grounded. So my motion stands. Is there a second?
I move that we move in the direction of having to, or I second that motion. Sorry.
Okay. Before we have, is there any discussion? Because I have a discussion I'd like to add to that. I think at the second meeting of the month, if we should only ask the heads of departments to come that have something that that needs to be talked about at that particular meeting.
Yes.
I'm open to the thing, but I know sometimes, for instance, if it's something, if we're talking about this Armstrong Street water project, and we need another, in the second meeting, we're going to be doing that. We definitely want Chase to be here, but we don't need for maybe Phil or somebody else to be here for that particular meeting.
Can I please amend my motion to indicate that at the second meeting per month, according to the agenda plan for that meeting, only those department heads that are deemed necessary and valuable need to attend that. Others can. It's a public meeting.
Yes.
But as you said, Mike, and I think the rationale there is that is the conventional practice, I believe, with Lebanon Utility, USB, Peru USB, Westfield USB, and Franklin, Indiana USB. So, yes, that's my motion modified.
As amended motion,
I will also amend my second to match the amended motion.
any other discussion? Roll call.
Mike Reeder,
Aye.
Krista Stillwell,
Aye.
Rick Gunyon,
Aye.
Mike Kelly.
Aye. Last item that I have is these documents that I have received that I talked about that indicate that maybe we need more meetings than one a month for business. And we will have a document eventually about how to get items on the agenda. But I would really, really like for the items that we're going to be talking about to have the documents in the possession of the board member at least 3 or 4 days before the meeting, so that they have an opportunity to digest, and not that we'll make a decision at that meeting, but at least we'll have some basis for discussion. And I think that, so.
That's what's outlined in that submission policy. I think I had said 5 days. That's the whole goal, is just to show mutual respect to our board members for the things that maybe a project we personally have worked on, that we want everyone else to have the opportunity to have due diligence. Anyone that's in that meeting that would need to speak on that they would be brought into the loop on that information as well. That's been pretty standard practice for me for any board that I've been a part of, that there's some sort of policy guiding, here's how the agenda's formed, and here's how far in advance you need to have that stuff to us so that we can do our due diligence individually. We can call, ask questions, those types of things before we're expected to either make a decision or have discussion about that topic. So that's what that submission policy outlines.
And of course, there's going to be emergency things that come up
Yes.
and have to be discussed on maybe something happens the day before the meeting.
Right.
We need to talk about.
Yep.
I have no problem with that, but I think if at all possible, let's get as many of those things in the possession of the board members in advance as possible.
And if it needs to go into the packet Thursday afternoon, please, before the meeting.
Yeah. I think when I figured in 5 days, I was actually kind of thinking about the weekend in that too.
Yeah.
So like you would have it by Wednesday or Thursday.
I send it out. I send the packets out. I try to get them out Friday afternoon.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
And there's no reason you can't send the documents individually. So.
Right.
That was strictly just if you want them in the packet. Obviously, if there's things that just go to you guys, I obviously have no problem with that. But if you want it in the packet Thursday for me.
Yeah.
Any other business for the board tonight?
Yes,
Okay.
please. Thank you. I'll keep my list as short as possible. So somewhat of I won't call it an emergency situation, but it's something we want to respond to quickly. And I'm going to save the board's time. I'm not going to send my photograph to the screens here in that connection time. On the lagoons, wildlife platform, observation platform to the 30-acre wetlands area to the north. Everybody familiar with what we're talking about there? That was recently rebuilt last year. Todd, are you with me on that? Mm-hmm. Okay. We have a unintended life safety issue, if I can describe it. The risk is should a young child, if a young child were to go out on that observation deck, the lowest guardrail is about knee high, or a little lower, a little higher, excuse me. And then there's an open space above that. So if you look at construction standards for Indiana buildings or public spaces, the action indicated is to reduce that risk of a child slipping or going underneath that, chasing a ball or losing their balance and falling 20 to 30 feet to the ground below. So the way we could accomplish that is to get some, what it's called hog penning. Mike may be familiar with that. Hog panel is another name for it. Real King sells that. It's in stock. It's hardened galvanized steel, very heavy gauge. That could be affixed to the inside of those guardrails around that whole perimeter, allow people to see through it, but the largest opening is about this big, and that would prevent a young child from falling through. So I have photographs I can email those to the board after tonight's meeting, and I'll do so. And my recommendation request would be if Todd could please take a look at that risk and the proposed action plan, and set into motion installation of hog panel as indicated to prevent someone slipping through. Are any questions on that or comments?
My only comment is probably we need to do it sooner than later, so.
Thank you. I had, in my slideshow, I had 3 slides, or I had 7 slides, and I picked, if we could do it by Wednesday, it'd be great. So that's 2 days. We're gonna have good weather. Is that possible? It's probably a 5-hour job for 2 people. But thank you, Mike. Any questions on it, Todd?
Just send me the pictures of what you're talking about, and we'll get it taken care of.
I appreciate that. I thought you would. Thank you. Anything else?
PJ, you think your guys could handle that?
PJ's a little short-handed, we'll get it figured out. If I have to wear jeans in one day or shorts or whatever, we'll get her figured out.
All right.
I can
Anything
help
else?
after 4 p.m. So give me a call.
I got plans after 4.
I'm going to tee up a few policies and items for future meeting discussion. I'd like for those to be put on the now infamous list of open-ended items with the board's consensus. And these are for future discussion. I don't mean to get into them tonight. I'd like to see us develop a new policy for public access to regular USB meetings that includes conformance to House Bill 1167 that is required to be complied with by July 1 of this year. And rather than make a motion tonight to do so, following your request earlier tonight, Mike, let's please discuss that in our second meeting in May. Okay, is that fair enough? So you have that
on the parking lot.
You have that down? It's not on the parking lot of the agenda I see.
House
House
Bill
Bill
1167 accommodations, June of 2025.
July.
Yeah, well, it's July,
I meant July of 2025.
and we have no policy that says we're going to comply, and we're going to live stream each regular meeting, including work sessions.
Legally speaking, sorry to interrupt you, Rick, we don't have to have a policy to that effect. We just have to make sure we do it. So as long as we are live streaming starting July 1st, 2025, every meeting, and if there's a work session, if it's any public meeting, it would need to be live streamed. So as long as we accomplish that, we don't necessarily need a policy to that effect because it is state law. It's a requirement. So we can do a policy, certainly, but that's not something we have to have as long as we're making sure we meet that requirement.
I
We
agree.
started live streaming tonight.
I agree, Alicia, and thank you for your comment. My perspective on governance is if we do choose to have a one-page policy to that effect, then we made a commitment that we're going to do it. This is the topic goes back to 2018, and we have live streamed for a while and then stopped, and live streamed for a while and stopped, and we've put those on the city website and stopped. And I just don't want to see that practice continue.
Well, we can't. Once July 1st hits, we can't because we're legally obligated by state statute to do it. So for now, the reason that it has been on and off and on and off is because we aren't required to do it. So if we want to do it, we're welcome to do it, but we're not required. Once July 1st hits, we don't have a choice. I don't know what the consequences to not do it are because I don't think the state knows what the consequences are. But I'm sure there are some probably going to be developed by the public access counselor. But we don't have a choice after July 1st. So if we're not doing it and we're not posting them and we're not recording them and we're not archiving them, then we are in violation of state statute. So at that point, the choice isn't ours anymore. So
thank
Rick,
you again.
what I would
discuss it
suggest-
in our next meeting.
What I would like for you to do is, just as you did for the automatic password reset tool document that you sent to me and to other board members, if you would do, we don't need to put it on the open items things, because if I have this, it's going on the agenda for whenever it'll be on the agenda, because it's not an open item yet. So, but
Well,
when
you say, if you have this, I'm not sure what you got. What's this?
I have a email that you sent to me and to the other board members that says, from Rick Gunyon, and it says about the password reset program that you proposed that we look at. I'm going to put it on the agenda for the next meeting. Anything that you have there that you want to have on a discussion about, if you give me a document that says, I want to talk about this, it'll be on the agenda.
So clarify for me, under new business, we're sitting here in a public meeting. You don't want me to bring these things up? You want an email instead?
Well, if you just said you were going to want to talk about it at the next meeting.
Okay, I feel like I want to just enumerate the topic items, then I won't go into detail. I won't entertain questions. I would like to ask, and I'll send an email to this effect, that we establish a new policy for regarding internet service outages. So if FMU telecommunications loses fiber internet access or voice over internet protocol that the city utilities use, I'd like a process in place that event is communicated to the board members and to Todd, and that we keep a record of such outages.
But that's what we can discuss, that exactly that thing on the, if it's on the agenda next meeting, because you send it to me, we can discuss that. All you got to do is send it.
Why do we have new business? Only if we send an email prior to the prior meeting?
Unless there's a provision for things that are of emergency necessary that come up the day or two before. But right now, I don't see why we can't have that on the agenda for the next meeting.
Well, good. I agree. I think some of these, it might be in our best interest in the interest
I guess
of our
I will just say this.
Go ahead.
We don't need to expound upon something that's going to be on the agenda next month at this meeting this month.
Okay, so let me conclude where I was going. The question has been asked of me as a board member: when is FMU going to take care of finishing the asphalt paving for the utility street cut on Williams Road at Harvard Terrace? It's been about 6 weeks since the concrete was poured, and there was nearly an accident, someone going in the other lane of traffic to get around that. Maybe that's something we can look at between now and the next meeting. That's why I mentioned it tonight. It doesn't need to wait for next meeting for someone to take a look at that. And the last thing is,
that's supposed to be paid from our department has been submitted to payment.
I would assume that Tiger Street's the same way.
Tiger Street's gonna get around, they're resurfacing that.
That's what I mean. Just waiting on the paving companies that are going to do these things.
We've gone as far as some of that being concreted all the way to the top, and that way there is not a street cut there beyond that. So as far as that particular one, those have been turned over. It's the water.
So let me ask you guys this question, because I think some of this comes down to a more fully developed social media strategy, right? So we see that the city regularly has updates from street department or updates from whatever, and this is how they communicate some of these things that are happenstance things that happen in between public meetings, right? So let me ask the question of, if we have a constituent question or a series of or ratepayer questions that involve services related to us, can we begin using social media as a platform? And I would be more than happy to oversee the execution of this, to speak to those things, right? So you guys say, we have submitted that list. That's a very short social media post that has a checkbox of a graphic, and it says, just so you all are aware, we have submitted our list. And then if a ratepayer has a question, we can point back to the fact that we've spoken to that, and if they have any additional questions, who they call and where they call, right? Things like the substation that went out the other night, right? Quick text, I may be awake, I may not, but by George, I'll have a social media post up the next morning that speaks to that, right? And it would be a new kind of workflow of communication that can help address some of these things so that we don't have to wait every 2 weeks for a public meeting.
It also may be beneficial to put, piggyback off of what you're saying.
Yeah.
In regards
Right.
to the last few items that we talked about,
Yep.
the paving issue is a lot different than that is an immediate, that would have been something that could have been put on the agenda that night, which is tonight. The automatic password reset or the upcoming legislative stuff, that was not a necessity to be even distributed, talked about tonight. The difference between the two is one of them is something that needs to be more immediately done. Matter of fact, I would hope that when you had someone ask you that you would have maybe talked to Todd or somebody about it, what do you know about this issue? Then you could share that with the constituent that asked you about it, that you would have the answer to give them, and then we could talk about it at the next meeting too.
With all respect, I don't agree. I don't want to be in a position as a board member that I'm going to our general manager asking a question on behalf of the public and then reporting back to the public. I don't think that's my role. I think that's an example of this board being too involved in Todd Corey's mess kit as a general manager. I do want to bring it to the board's attention. And there's one other related, so we disagree on that, Mike. And it's one other related thing that's been talked about going back to the year before last with one board member. Never got to the board for discussion, and it's simply a question of status update. Whether it's in the budget or not, I do not know for this year. But it seems to me like it would, I'll put it this way, it would be nice if Todd would update the board. And my thoughts here are, let's put it on the open item list. Simply on the task of the parking lot at the billing office. Parking lot repair, sealing, and line painting.
We are on their list to have that done.
Oh, there's the update.
They're gonna come out and patch.
Okay.
And then they're gonna, seal it, stripe it, and then after that, we've got some speed bumps.
Fantastic.
There on what would be the west side. We're just, what it's Crenshaw is gonna do it, we're just waiting for them to get there to do it. But that is being done, it is in this year's budget.
Fantastic. I didn't want to bring that up in tonight's meeting because the request has been to identify topics for the next board meeting. So that's why I didn't do it that way. But since you gave the update, we're all good. We don't need to put it on next week.
Yeah, it should be taken care of. Right now, I know they're doing a big job up behind the old billing office up there. They're tearing that whole parking lot out and redoing that. And hopefully then after that, they're gonna get done.
So and thanks for that, Todd. I think that's an example of the term used in general business is agile. We're better off being flexible and agile than having strict rules where we have to put things in boxes, because everything's a little bit different. So in this case, I maybe could have asked Todd, what's the status of that? And he could answer like he did tonight, and it would be over and done with. We don't need to put it on an agenda. I don't need to send you an email. Let's talk about this topic next meeting. So I think we're all good. That's the end of my short list. So thank you.
Anything else?
I think I just want to speak to the fact that with that agenda submission policy, my whole goal is to make sure that anything that we do want to discuss in detail is made aware to the public so that they can anticipate if they want to tune in to the public meeting that's going to be live transmitted. Also, that they can be present if they want to have public comment on something. It's all in the spirit of transparency, because some of those topics, especially, for example, the individual who did speak to him about the Williams Road paving may have wanted to come and provide comment on that concern or speak to that concern about their near accident. And they would have been able to have access to the agenda to know that that was going to be discussed at this meeting. So by no means is it to try to make anything rigid. My whole goal is transparency and collaboration with that policy. I just wanted to make sure that we had that.
Anything else? A motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye.